Hi there, Sandi MacIver here, and today in my Countdown to Christmas series, I'm sharing how I mass produce artful holiday cards. I'm going to be using this beautiful Wishes snowflake stamp from Colorado Craft Company. It's got a huge snowflake and a great selection of sentiments. To start the process, you want to use your MISTI stamping platform and you want to white heat emboss the big snowflake onto a whole bunch of pieces of watercolor paper. And I've got mine cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And again, I'm white heat embossing them. And to mass produce, do, 8 or 10 at a time. That'll give you a good start. And you won't have to stop and go back and do more heat embossing. Next, you want to tape them down to the hardboard with painter's tape. I use the cardboard backing from my watercolor paper pads. So today I'm going to be working with the Nouveau shimmer patterns. These are dry. They've got really heavy pigment in them, and they've also got some lovely shimmer. And so you just need to shake it out a tiny little bit, and a little goes a long ways, believe me. I'm also working on my Waffle Flowers water media mat. I find that for this type of a technique with lots of water and lots of pigment, it helps to keep my work surface clean. I've also got paper towel off to my left to protect my work surface where I'm going to put my wet pieces down. And as you can see, I've got a whole bunch here. We're going to do a few different color combinations, and I've got them all on my hardboards ready to go. To start the process, you want to take your MISTI with just a bunch of water in it, and you want to mist the entire surface, get it good and wet, and then you're going to pick up your colors. I'm just going to zoom in here so you can see it a little bit better. You're going to pick up your colors and very, very gently tap on them to start getting that pigment out there. I'm going to be playing with 5 colors for this one. And I'm just kind of adding to the different sections equal amounts. I do get a little carried away with the blue because it's one of my favorite colors, so I kind of want that to be the primary in this one. Then I'm adding a little bit of purple, and after that I'm going to add a tiny little bit of red. And you'll see that it's already starting to work on the surfaces where there's lots of water, and doing it this way actually kind of holds most of it onto the paper for you, so that when you go to spritz it again, you're not going to get pigment everywhere. And it really does happen. You'll find that when you clean your work surface afterwards, you're still going to have pigment. So again, I'm spritzing it. And then this is where I'm going to bring in a clean paintbrush, and I'm going to start filling in some of the white spots. You want to make sure that you clean your brush between colors and move the pigments around. If you find a couple of spots, like right here in the bottom left-hand corner, this purple, all the pigment isn't melted, so just squirt it again so that it starts to activate, and then you can move it around. And if you find that things are too light, you can add some more pigment to it. Be careful, like I just did there, not to mix too many of the colors or you'll get kind of a brown. And just work your way around, making sure that you don't have any white spots. And you'll also see that there's puddles starting to appear out on the edge on top of my blue tape. We're going to be taking care of those in a minute as well. So you see I just added some more pigment, I added some more yellow, and that's helping to fill in the background for me. And the darker that you make the background, the more your snowflake is going to pop when it's dry and you're ready to put your card together. So keep that in mind as you're adding your colors to your palette. And I'm pulling that blue in. I want a little bit more of that in the center, mixing that blue and purple a little bit, and just kind of, I'm doing this in real time for this first one, just so that you see how I move around and how long it takes me to do this. For the next 4 cards, I will speed this up a little bit for you. But you'll see that you can take your time with the paintbrush and just really move the colors around. That spot is really, really pale, so I'm going to come back in with more of that light blue, add a little bit of pigment, and that will really brighten it up just instantly. This stuff is really fun to play with. Okay, so now I'm going to grab some of that paper towel that I showed you a few minutes ago, and I like to fold it so that I've got a nice smooth edge and work my way around, picking up all the little puddles of color that are off to the edge, because it's of no use being stuck on the edge like that, and it's just going to slow down the drying process of the paper that it's around, or you may end up tipping it and end up with a big puddle in your artwork. And if you do see a big puddle in your artwork, use the tip of a clean paper towel and wick some of that up so that it will speed up the drying process for you. So there you go. I think I am pretty happy with this. I got all my puddles cleaned up. I have all my white spots kind of done, so I'm setting it off to the side to dry, and we're going to start in on the next one. We're going to do this one in green and yellow, so Falling Leaves and Solar Flare from the Nouveau Shimmer Powders. And again, I spritzed it. I'm adding the pigment, and then I'm spritzing it again, and I'm using my paintbrush, and I'm doing all the green first, and then I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm coming back in and blending the yellow, and I need more yellow, so I'm adding more pigment. And again, remember to tap that little bottle very lightly because it comes out really fast, and it's, it'll take over. If you end up with too much yellow, you'll just end up with a yellow-green card mess. So again, make sure there's no white spots in your background. Make sure it's nice and bright. Move that color around. Add a little bit more color if you have to. And then you're going to wick up all of the little puddles. And there's no way of getting around the puddles because you need all of that liquid to get the pigment activated. So that's just a fact of life. Okay, so we got this one finished. I set that one aside and we're on to the third one. This time we are using Solar Flare and Catherine Wheeler. Catherine Wheeler is a red, but it's also got a little bit of orange and a little bit of purple in it. It's absolutely stunning, but you have to be careful with it because it will take over your card. So make sure you're careful about separating some spots so that you have your other color showing, like the yellow I have in this one, so that you get a little bit of contrast going on, and you don't want to mix them too much or you're just going to end up with orange. So be careful that you don't take that brush and just smear the whole mess together because they're way prettier when they're separated a little bit. But you see how bright the red is and how it just takes over? That's what you have to be careful of. But this ends up turning out to be, I think, my favorite color combination just because it's so bright when it's finished and dry. So there we go again. And you're going to wick up all of your little puddles and then set it aside. We're on to the next one. This is going to be the blue and green one, so I'm using the Blue Blitz and the Falling Leaves, which is kind of a greeny yellow. And again, spritz. You're going to add the pigment, and I basically add a lot of both of these colors because they are my favorites. And as you get on in this, you'll feel when there's enough pigment on there that you don't have to keep adding more and you activate it and there's enough to move it around, because you'll see that this one and the last one have spread a lot easier than the very first one where I added so many colors. It's also a good idea to maybe start with just 2 colors until you get used to it. Using 4 or 5 colors, you can get it to turn to mud really quickly if you overlap the colors too much and don't leave a little bit of separation between them. But you see how quick and easy this one was? I got this blue and green in here in no time. Once they're dry, you want to remove them from your hardboard, and then you want to take a dry, clean paper towel and you want to rub really well over the entire surface. And so what that does is it picks up any pigment that's sitting on top of the embossing, but it also removes any pigment that didn't get activated, because you don't want to get that in your carpet. So you don't want to rub it as you're walking across the floor somewhere. Next time you shampoo your carpets, you might get a little surprise. So I am trimming the edges off of these down to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm using a strong adhesive because, of course, this is watercolor paper and we've gotten it wet. So use a good strong adhesive to attach these to your top folding A2 card bases, just like that. And now I am popping all the sentiments back into my MISTI, and I'm going to be white heat embossing them on black cardstock. And I'm going to chop all those up and use them on my cards. So I stamped and embossed both ends of those, and then I just sliced them up into strips with my cutter, trim them out, and add them to the cards. And then I also added a whole bunch of embellishments. So there's a variety here from Pretty Pink Posh, Sea Glass Jewels, and then there's Simon Says Rainbow Party Sequins. I have a list of what I used underneath this video, and there's also a link over to my blog where I share the entire list of all the products that I used as well. So here's all the finished cards that I mass produced in this little sitting. It didn't take very long. I didn't make too much of a mess because if you do all the prep ahead of time and then do each step for all of the cards, it really does go quite quickly. And aren't they beautiful? I just love all the pretty colors. So there's a supply list and a PDF file over on my blog. There's a link in the comments underneath this video to get you over there. And thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And until next time, toodles!